Today, at his introductory press conference in Tampa Bay, Brady had to do it over the telephone. He was very reluctant to speak about any disappointment about having to leave the New England Patriots. Take a listen for yourself.
No, I have a great deal of respect for, there's nobody who's been a bigger fan of the England Patriots than me. So I have nothing but total respect and love. And, I'm so grateful to Mr. Kraft and the organization and Coach Belichick.
That's what Brady had to say if he was asked if he was disappointed if the Patriots didn't make a bigger effort to retain him. And after listening to Brady's press conference today, I just came to the conclusion that not just Bill Belichick was ready to move on, Tom Brady was ready to move on equally. And I think this happens a lot of times in a lot of relationships. Maybe there's one side of the party, maybe it's the man, maybe it's the woman, maybe it's the wife, maybe it's the husband. Somebody decides first, you know what? I'm kind of over this. And maybe that was Belichick a few years ago when he tried to trade Tom Brady. But Tom Brady got right there in equality with Bill Belichick in terms of wanting to be done with this. I think both of these guys were ready for this thing to be over, and that's why Brady was reluctant to take any pot shots. He didn't want to talk about the past. He's ready to move on with his new relationship with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Marcellus, you agree with me? They were both ready to move on from this?
They both were ready to move on. Bill Belichick more so than Tom Brady because Bill Belichick has been here before. Bill Belichick knows what Tom Brady is feeling right now because he used to be Tom Brady. Unheralded special teams coach, defensive assistant who finally got his chance, big chance as a defensive coordinator with Bill Parcells. And to have his greatness always in tow with Bill Parcells, whether it's being overshadowed or just hits to Bill Parcells' greatness. And Bill Belichick finally wanted to go out, fly away from the nest and see what he could do. He was a losing coach in Cleveland, had to come back to the New England Patriots and become a coordinator once again for the Bill Parcells. And then he goes out and has to follow Bill Parcells as the Jets coach. And he's like, enough of this. It's time for me to go out and seek my own independent legacy. So he knew Tom Brady one day would come to this same moment where he wants to seek his own independent legacy. Bill Belichick wanted this before this moment. Tom Brady came to this realization once he didn't feel the exact amount of love he desired in his workplace and what he deserved because of his success.
I'm going to nitpick you a little bit because you said Bill Belichick wanted it more. I agree with you. Bill Belichick wanted it first, but I think Tom Brady got there just as passionately once he realized, hey, you know what? This guy isn't as into me as he once was. I think he met Bill Belichick's enthusiasm in the last year or a year and a half. He met Bill Belichick's enthusiasm to get the hell out of New England and go prove. And again, I think this is a mistake on Tom Brady's part, but I think he equally wanted out of New England. That's why he didn't make some great effort. If he had gone to Robert Kraft's house and said, hey, man, we got 20 years. Let's do 22. Let's make it happen by any means necessary. This relationship would have continued. But instead, I think Tom Brady was like, man, I'm just like Belichick. I'm over this. I'm done with it. The kids are grown. Gronk's moved out of the house to college. Randy Moss is in the Hall of Fame. Ty Law's in the Hall of Fame. Willie McGinnis, Teddy Bruce, he got great TV careers. We raised all of our kids. Hey, the bad kid went to jail, Aaron Hernandez, and he's gone. I think just like a lot of married couples, this was an empty nest household, and they looked at each other and said, you know what? I'm going to go get me a pretty young thing or something new. I'm over this. I think Tom Brady, just as much as Belichick, I agree with you, he wasn't first, but he's right there with Belichick in like, let me do something else.
Look, I will agree that they matched enthusiasm, but they got there different times and they got their different ways. Bill Belichick was able to freeze Tom Brady's heart over. And Tom Brady still had love for the Patriots, still had love for that position, that title of being the GOAT and the quarterback of the Patriots. But what happened was Bill Belichick stopped returning those phone calls. And when he did pick up the phone, he wasn't as warm as Tom Brady remembered. So Tom Brady arrived at this place, but Bill Belichick was the one encouraging Tom Brady to even come to the same realization he did, which is it's okay to go out there and figure out how great you can become without someone else overshadowing you. So that Bill Parcells relationship, which really fueled Bill Belichick in many ways, if you really dive into his resume, you can realize that he knew one day that Tom Brady was going to have to get to this same point. Prematurely, some thought that Bill Belichick looked at Tom Brady as a has-been. This was in 2017, and Tom Brady has won a Super Bowl since then, but Bill Belichick stopped answering the phone with the same warmth and the same understanding that he once did.
Listen, we've been talking about this for months. Let's try to put a bow on it. Brady's had his press conference in Tampa Bay. So let me ask you, and we've asked this a million times, but let's ask it one more time. If you had to say someone's making a mistake by ending this relationship, who's going to get into this divorce and have regret in 2020? I'm not talking about 2021 or 22. In 2020, when that season kicks off, who's going to have the most regret?
Absolutely, it's going to be Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. They're going to realize that it's a team game, and as great as Tom Brady is, you have to dress him up with the proper resources in terms of weapons and receivers and the proper running game and the defense, all in coordination for Tom Brady to be at his best. So what they're going to come to realize is no matter who's under center, good or bad, no matter who's out there in their weapons, that it's a coordinated effort. And that realization is going to make them realize it wasn't all on Tom Brady. I think right now, when you do your assessment of the Patriots, they were 12-14, kind of glossy. But then you look at Tom Brady and you start to nitpick without fully realizing he didn't have weapons. He had a 35-year-old Julian Edelman coming off PEDs because he realizes he doesn't have much left. That was his number one target. So I think all those things are going to come into understanding when the season starts, and they're going to realize, ooh, we let a good one go.
All right, I got to admit, I've been all over the map on this one. I tend to think Brady's going to miss these guys a little more. But, and again, I'm actually leaning today in this moment that Belichick in 2020 is going to miss Brady more. And it's because of the culture. I was reading something Mike Lombardi wrote this week that I thought was really good. I think it was yesterday or this morning, that was really good about the relationship and how Brady was central to creating that culture that they have in New England. Certainly, Bill Belichick deserves the credit for coming up with the recipe. But damn it, Tom Brady was right there in that kitchen with him, cooking up that culture, bought into it, was a willing servant of that culture for 20 years and helped set that tone. I think Brady's value in terms of going to special teams meetings, allowing Belichick to coach him like he was a special teams player. It's no different than what Greg Popovich found when Tim Duncan walked away, when Manu Ginobili, when Tony Parker, when that big three with the San Antonio Spurs, and the next thing you know, Pop is having to lean into Kawhi, and no shot at Kawhi, but he's different than Tim Duncan. He's not a part of that culture, and things didn't go well. Greg Popovich, arguably the best coach in the NBA since Red Auerbach, or certainly right there with Phil Jackson. And they had a culture in San Antonio that Popovich hasn't been able to duplicate since Tim Duncan left. I think removing Tom Brady from this culture in 2020, Bill Belichick's going to be sitting there like, I need Tom in this kitchen cooking with me. This lasagna don't taste the same. All right, let's move on to the Indianapolis Colts, who we've learned have made a very interesting decision. Tom Brady had interest in the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts didn't have interest in Tom Brady, seemingly. They chose Phillip Rivers and a one-year deal rather than potentially Tom Brady coming into the house that Peyton Manning built. Marcellus, is it crazy that the Colts chose Phillip Rivers over Tom Brady?
Not crazy at all. This is smart football right here. One, the familiarity, obviously, and the head coach, Frank Reich, who was in San Diego with Phillip Rivers for 3 years. And 2013 especially stands out because Phillip Rivers was the comeback player of the year, and that was under Frank Reich as his offensive coordinator. Now, you have to respect that familiarity, that relationship, because when you start to get into a short-term deal, whether it was a one-year deal with Phillip Rivers or the consideration of Tom Brady for a couple of years, you need to hit the ground running, especially in the conditions that this entire world is dealing with the coronavirus. You need to have familiarity. I think that was a large part of why Phillip Rivers had the leg up over Tom Brady. But also, you brought up the house that Peyton Manning built, and then Peyton Manning is asked to depart, and then you bring in his arch nemesis and Tom Brady. That just didn't fit conveniently. And for people out there who keep looking down at Phillip Rivers, he's not a slouch. Fun fact for you all, he actually had a higher passer rating than Tom Brady did last year, despite Tom Brady throwing for more touchdowns and fewer interceptions. But Phillip Rivers had a higher completion percentage and greater yards per attempt. So Phillip Rivers hasn't fallen off the cliff as advertised. I think it was a smart move by the Colts.
Phillip Rivers has fallen off a cliff, and Tom Brady would have loved to have had Keenan Allen and a bunch of the other weapons in San Diego or in Los Angeles with the Chargers that Phillip Rivers had. I do think it's a bit crazy not to kick the tires on this, to show no interest. When you show no interest, that to me says Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, was kind of leaning into, man, can we really let Tom Brady come to Peyton Manning's house? With that, I don't think he felt like that would land well with hardcore sports fans in Indianapolis or their continuing relationship with Peyton Manning. We still don't know what Peyton Manning is going to do post-career. One day, Peyton Manning may be the president of the Indianapolis Colts. Who knows? And maybe Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, didn't want to take that risk of bringing Tom Brady into his arch rival's stadium, uniform, jersey, the whole 9 yards. But I do think the Colts made a mistake here. If you have a chance to get Tom Brady for 2 years, with that roster you built, with that offensive line you built, with that chance, the Colts, in their mind, are a win-now Super Bowl team. Phillip Rivers over Tom Brady, that is crazy to me.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. And be sure to check out more of the best clips from Speak For Yourself or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.